Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are unpacking a really fascinating and, let's be totally honest, sometimes deeply frustrating human behavior, the psychology of the disappearing act. Like, why is it that when life gets exceptionally tough, some people just vanish? Well, let's find out. Have you ever noticed someone completely disappear when life gets difficult? You probably know the exact scenario I'm talking about. A loved one, a family member, or maybe a really good friend just stops replying. They completely dodge your calls, they withdraw from absolutely everyone. Sometimes it's just for a few days, right? But sometimes it stretches into months, and it feels incredibly jarring. You're left sitting there completely in the dark, wondering, wait, did I do something wrong? Or do they just not care about our relationship anymore? Section 1, The Disappearing Act Explained. Okay, let's dive right into this. Our immediate assumption is usually that the person who vanishes is, well, just being selfish, or perhaps demonstrating a distinct lack of care for the people around them. But the psychological reality, it's very different. Disappearing during hard times is rarely about selfishness. In many, many cases, it is simply the mind's necessary way of coping with intense emotional overload. It's a defense mechanism, plain and simple. Section 2, Brains and Survival Mode, Stress as Danger. To really grasp why this happens, we have to look beneath the surface psychology and examine the actual biological response taking place. It really comes down to survival mode. This is a state where your nervous system treats stress exactly like a physical danger, narrowing your attention solely to emotional protection rather than social connection. When life becomes utterly overwhelming, the brain essentially trips a biological alarm. It instantly stops prioritizing things like, sending a text message or keeping lunch plans and starts focusing only on emotional protection. Instead of reaching outward for help, the person instinctively withdraws inward. It's almost like the mind is trying to hide in a cave until a perceived physical predator passes by. Now, this state takes a massive physical toll. Normally, your mental energy is high, you can chat, work, socialize, and process emotions pretty easily. But under high stress, that cognitive energy absolutely plummets. Stress literally consumes your mental fuel. Because of this drastic drop, incredibly simple tasks like reading a text or maintaining a basic conversation suddenly become mentally exhausting mountains to climb. So, the crucial point here is this: it's not intentional ignoring. It is a genuine lack of emotional energy. They aren't purposely trying to be hurtful or leave you unread. The very act of interacting has simply become way too overwhelming for their depleted nervous system to handle. Section 3. Hiding from vulnerability. Distance feels safer. But it's not just a matter of low energy. It's also about throwing up a psychological shield. This builds into a really powerful pattern of emotional defense. First off, the struggle itself feels deeply vulnerable. This triggers an intense fear of being seen, failing, or confused, emotionally exhausted, or mentally lost. The inevitable result? Complete isolation. Instead of explaining what they are going through, which requires an immense amount of vulnerability, they just choose to check out entirely. Psychologically speaking, putting up a wall of distance starts feeling significantly safer than allowing themselves to be emotionally seen when they are at their absolute lowest point. And there's a powerful secondary benefit to this wall. Isolation creates control. Think about it. During difficult periods, life feels completely unpredictable. But when you isolate, there are no expectations, there are no conversations to navigate, there is zero pressure to articulate complex emotions. For an overwhelmed mind, withdrawing is a highly effective way to dial down that emotional stimulation and manufacture a much-needed sense of control when the rest of the world just feels way too heavy to carry. Section 4, The Self-Reliance Trap. Fear of being a burden. My problems will only stress others. This is the silent, heavy, and often tragic belief that drives so many people to disappear. They don't want to be a burden, so rather than asking for the support they desperately need, they just vanish. They do this entirely to avoid feeling guilty, needy, or emotionally dependent on anyone else. This is the true tragedy of hyper-independence. People with strong self-reliance patterns genuinely struggle to seek help, even when they desperately need it. They've been conditioned, often for years, to handle absolutely everything on their own, making the prospect of leaning on someone else feel completely unnatural and sometimes even terrifying. So they retreat right back into isolation. Section 5, Rethinking the Silence, Pulling It Together. Okay, we've unpacked a lot of really fascinating psychology today. Let's pull all these threads together. Here are the 5 hidden drivers behind the disappearing act. First,
brains treating stress like physical danger, throwing the nervous system straight into survival mode. Second, avoiding emotional exposure and the deep fear of being seen failing. Third, gaining a sense of control through isolation when life feels chaotic. Fourth, the self-reliance trap and the fear of being a burden. And finally, completely depleted cognitive energy, leaving absolutely no mental fuel left for social interaction. Together, these form a complex, completely unintentional, and actually quite desperate coping mechanism.
Which leaves us with a final thought. Once you understand these deeper reasons, how does it change how you see human behavior? Think about the people in your own life. The next time someone goes silent, you might realize, hey, it's not about you at all. It's a sign that their energy is completely depleted and their brain is just trying to survive the storm. I really hope this look at psychology has given you some great insights today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep staying curious.